Hello and welcome to the Larger Than Necessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 115. My name is Chris.
My name is David.
My name is Pawel.
Oh, that was a bit weird there, guys. We're not all sitting on the couch now, so there's not a hierarchy anymore.
I know.
I'm sure there's still Jesus, that word. Try again.
Hierarchy. Hierarchy.
You mean a pyramid of power?
Yeah. That makes it sound way better.
Well, I'm the scum of the earth, so I'm happy at the bottom.
People? That's going to be a very lopsided pyramid with just the four of us.
I'll let you guys fight for the top of the pyramid, and I'm just going to build it from the bottom.
Okay, you do that. Okay, so yes, we are attempting to record from all of our homes today for the first time.
I know.
So if sorry, what were you saying? So this is already confusing.
I think we should just blame the editor for this.
Do you guys just want to come round again? Yeah, so if there's any technical issues, then you'll understand why.
I still think that we should at least have webcams on so that we can see each other's faces. But then again, I don't have a webcam, so I'll shut up.
Well, I did think the webcams would probably be helpful. Especially for me gesturing angrily at you, Pawel, when you go on for too long.
It's fine. I can see your secret signs even without being there. I can picture them in my head. I've dreamt them a few times now.
Okay, well, let's stop talking this nonsense. We're here to talk about video games this week.
Wow.
And first up, I think we have to probably owe a small apology, because it's been about 3 weeks since we put anything out. The last thing we did was the Red Dice Games mini-con.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Chris had a birthday and basically just got so drunk that it's been 3 weeks still since then.
That's not entirely true. I mean, I did get really drunk, but that's not the reason why we didn't record anything. I mean, I'm quite happy to record drunk if you want.
I think it may have happened in the past.
I don't think it has, actually.
I've been in Scotland now for 10 years. I'm not entirely sure whether Scotsmen actually can tell the difference.
What, between sober and drunk?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's terrifying when you sober up. It's only happened a couple of times.
Oh, so it's about fear then?
Yeah, if it is, it's about fear. The fear of God. Don't want to have to deal with this. So yes, we are back. We are hopefully going to get back on schedule from now on. Hopefully get another board games episode out next week. Did I tell you guys, I've got some tasty board games for us to play.
I think some of us may have seen the pictures. In fact, I'm still waiting for my own shipping with that particular game.
I didn't realise that you'd got that, Pawel.
I sort of did. I think I late pledged or something.
Oh. See, I did not know this, but anyway, I've been dabbling with it today. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week, okay? Once we've all played it, because we will. Right? Right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I've also got a couple of other surprises for you, so...
cool.
Yeah, we should have a pretty tasty board games episode next time. But anyway, yeah, this week we're doing video games. And first up, Pawel.
Hello.
You're going to tell us about that Witcher 3 card game, aren't you?
I shall, with great pleasure.
Okay, go for it.
Well, let's start with the name. Some of you may have played Witcher 3. And obviously, we all know that playing Witcher 3 is partially about quests and mostly about Gwent. Or if you've played it in the Polish version, Polish language dubbing, then you'd know that the actual name of the card game is actually Gwent. Gwent. Yes, Gwent.
Gwent.
This is how Gwent. Yes. So this is, to be fair, I'm going to be reviewing Gwent today.
Is the Polish language version the way The Witcher's supposed to be played?
Well, the books were, written by a Polish author in Polish. So yes, anybody playing The Witcher, in fact, anybody playing Wiedźmin in English is essentially a heretic, and you should just stop your wicked ways. What's
it? Say that. What's it called in Polish?
The Witcher. The profession of Witcher in Polish is Wiedźmin. Now I think
Wiedźmin.
Is
I
that
think
an
we should
actual
stop.
profession in Poland?
Oh yeah. Right next to all those exorcists patrolling the streets in all the cities.
Right, but see, in English, Witcher is not a word, if you see what I mean. So
Well, obviously,
is this a
Wiedźmin is not.
translation error?
No,
Like a
No.
witcher is a person who witches. So I mean,
Yeah,
technically
exactly.
it is a word, but it's not. It's not like a word that was in common usage. I would say.
I should hope so. You know, when the books were first translated into English, I think in the first edition, the first English edition, it wasn't even The Witcher; it was actually the Hexer. So they were trying to come up with a good made-up English name for the Polish Wiedźmin, which is essentially an attempt to create a male-sounding word out of what's very much a female noun in Polish, Wiedźma, which is the witch or a witch.
Okay. So they wouldn't want to call it the warlock because that's just awful.
No, because that
also been used. Yes, many
I mean,
times.
the Witcher is not a warlock. If anything, Witcher probably stabs warlocks. I suppose.
Yeah.
He doesn't like warlocks.
Is there just not an English word for the Polish word, really?
Well, given that both words are made up, I would say no.
Well, the Hexer's definitely worse, so... I'm glad they didn't go with that. Right, anyway, tell us
I'm
about
glad we've
Gwent.
cleared this up. So, Pavel, let's talk about Gwent.
Gwent. No, but before we move on, I think
Gwent.
you guys should both, in order, in the pyramid order, you should take your turns and try to pronounce Wiedźmin.
Wiedźmin.
Okay.
God, that was
It's like-
awful. Okay, Dave, your
Thank
turn.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, what's it? Wiedźmin.
Oh, Jesus. See, that's
It's
much
like-
better.
It's like veg, but veg.
It's like the veg man.
The vegetable.
And mean. It's like mine, but it's like mean. So you just imagine
Okay.
you're a Polish person saying, this vegetable is mine.
This is fantastic. I'm so happy we did that. Oh, right. Excellent. Where were we? We were talking about Gwent. It's going well so far. So yes. So you're playing The Witcher in the language of your preference. You're doing your quests, as many as potentially more quests than in the bloody Skyrim. And as you travel around this gigantic map, you discover various inns and taverns and shops, and all of the innkeepers and shopkeepers and various other staff members you can play Gwent with, and that's pretty much the primary reason to play The Witcher, even though obviously it's an awesome game on its own. But Gwent is just what you choose to do, and it was so popular, in fact, that CD Projekt Red decided to come up with a separate product for that. So they've released Gwent. I think a standalone Gwent a year ago, possibly.
Yeah, that was October 2018.
It feels like the game's been around for. I know. Yeah. Sorry, that's because it was officially released.
Yeah,
a
I
few
was going to
months
say it was
ago.
probably in early access and stuff, wasn't it?
There was a fairly lengthy early access with plenty of changes. So many, in fact, that as you start playing the standalone Gwent, you see some similarities between between the minigame in The Witcher 3 and this full product. The basic concept is still the same. It's a card game. To play, you have to win 2 rounds out of 3. You have several different sort of deck factions as such, and if you've ever played any collectible card game, it's sort of similar to what you know. You draw a couple cards. They represent either various units on the field or various modifications for those units. And you, in case of Gwent, what you're trying to do is you're trying to have the biggest sort of strength of your units at the end of the round. With each of those units, apart from its strength, will have quite a lot of different abilities, and they can be played on, I think, either in the melee line or in the ranged line. In the original minigame in The Witcher 3, there were actually 3 lines. There was also something for like siege weapons, as in the 3rd line, but it's just the 2 lines now, melee and ranged. Also, I think in the original game, most cards could only be played in their respective line, whereas in here, as in the standalone product, you actually choose which line you play, and which is a completely different sort of tactical layer to the game, because the entire sort of dynamics of Gwent has been completely changed. This game doesn't really feel like the original minigame. Obviously, it's much bigger and much more complex, but it's the original one was essentially all about collecting various cards from your wins over all those innkeepers and tavern wrenches, and the more powerful cards you had, the better chances of winning against AI anyway. So, and here, well, it does take quite some time getting used to. More importantly, you can't bloody play against AI. I mean, I should have actually thought of that before I got the game, because I don't do multiplayer, man. So I really enjoyed Gwent in The Witcher 3. I'm like, yeah, this is a game for me, and it's really not, because even though it's awesome, I mean, it's really well done. You have to play multiplayer. That's shocking.
Don't fight it, Pawel. Don't fight it.
Well, I'm just about moving to the Thronebreaker sort of spin-off of Gwent, because it's now a spin-off of a spin-off, essentially. But I should probably also mention that, possibly because CD Projekt Red got like stupidly rich because of The Witcher 3, the quality of art on these cards is like nothing I've seen, and probably even dwarfs the Magic the Gathering and other such giants. It's really amazing. But yeah, so I've gone through all the tutorials and essentially all the solo content of Gwent standalone product, which was lots of fun, but also just tutorials. And then I've realized, yeah, I'm probably not even gonna play it anymore. But then I've realized that Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales has been released, which is a spin-off of a spin-off, as I said. Takes place in the world of The Witcher. It's a solo game where you play as one of the queens of the Northern Kingdoms, pretty much just wrestling with the invasion upon her lands. And this is I suppose you could call it an RPG of sorts, but it really isn't. You have your isometric or bird's view of your character, fairly nice but cartoony graphics. Your sort of digital novel-like conversations, and whenever you have actual fights on the world map, they use the Gwent mechanics. So your army, you're the queen, so you have an army. As you move through your land and rebuild it, you gather a bigger army, and depending on your choices, you have different factions at your disposal. But yeah, once you start fighting, it's your army is essentially your card. So most of the time you're playing the Northern Kingdoms faction as such. And here, obviously, you can play against AI to your heart's content, as well as go through quite a lot of different puzzles, which is sort of yet another way of using the new Gwent mechanics in a fairly smart way, because the game's engine is now so complex. There's so many possibilities There's plenty of stuff you can do, plenty of tasks you can give a solo player to have fun with. So, as much as I can see Gwent, even though it sort of, there was a time when it went through quite a lot of changes and it seems to have lost a bit of its fan base, which I suppose always happens when changes are extensive. I'm not sure what those changes were, because by the time I picked up Gwent, it was already in its current iteration, so I'm not entirely sure how it looked before. I just know that the current iteration is very much different from the Witcher 3 minigame. But it plays brilliantly, and Thronebreaker on its own is fantastic, because it's great writing. It's pretty much the level of narration you expect from Witcher 3 and all those AAA like proper RPG games, and its combat mechanics are very fun, very solid based on this game. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and even though it doesn't feel like it, even if it's a spin-off of a spin-off, Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales actually feels like a full AAA game and really worth your money. So there you go. I'm timing myself here, and I think I'm done. And we still have plenty of time for all the other stuff. Man, I'm good.
This is Pawel taking on board the advice I gave him about keeping things brief.
Yeah, it was more like bullying, but it's fine.
Well done, Pawel. Well done.
Thank you.
So you're enjoying it just because it's a single-player campaign, is what you're telling us?
Oh, I'm enjoying it. Well, the road towards enjoyment is open for me because it's solo, but it's the quality of the game itself that makes me enjoy it tremendously. Granted, your protagonist is a badass, kick-ass female character, so that makes it better already. But if you add to it the music, the fantastic art again, and the really, really cool card game gameplay, it's just such a successful product. I'm loving it.
Excellent. Am I right in saying that this was released at the same time the full game was released?
Yeah. I think, yeah. In fact, yes, it was. Yes, Gwent, the Thronebreaker, does have the same date, 23rd October 2018. So when the Thronebreaker was released, there was also this major, I shouldn't probably call it a patch, but essentially the newest version of Gwent, which apparently revamped quite a lot of mechanics and the dynamics of the game.
Excellent. Okay, Pawel. So that's CD Projekt Red?
With another hit, yes.
Another hit.
The boys are doing well.
And what's that on? Is that just a PC game, or is that also on other things?
That's PC, PlayStation, and Xbox One, my man.
Ah, beautiful.
Yes.
How much does it cost? Out of interest.
Well, I may have got it when it was slightly cheaper, I think. There's always these Christmassy sale thingies. But I can tell you that on Steam, Thronebreaker is 23 point some.
23 point something.
23.39.
That's not how you do currency, pal.
Okay. So on Steam, Thronebreaker and The Witcher Tales is 39 pence and £23.
Okay, thanks very much. Very informative.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Dave?
Yeah.
You're not convinced?
Well, I don't know. It's the...
There are chests.
Based on what Pawel said, like price-wise, that sounds about fair. Yeah, no chests, so that's a plus already.
No, there are chests. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. You can find.
How are there chests? It's like a freaking card.
Bonus cards.
Yeah, but Gwent itself is a card game, but Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales also has this sort of campaign map where you move through your kingdom.
I can see that. Why does that require chests in any form? Like, surely that's
sometimes you find chests. I know that you like them.
Oh God, is that in the sort of isometric
Yes.
Baldur's Gate looking sections of the game? So do you actually walk about in those and talk to people and so on?
Yeah.
Ah,
You have control of your main
I didn't realise
character.
that either.
Yeah, I thought they were just kind of nice. I thought it was a bit more abstract than that. But,
No. Your main campaign is essentially Queen Mev, or Meave, however you want to pronounce her name, walking about and exploring her burning land and trying
like queens are known to do, just wandering around.
You know, the
Wander
Empire
around
of
in a burning land.
Nilfgaard. The Empire of Nilfgaard is advancing. There is no stopping it, obviously, as we know from the books.
But you can stop them with a card game.
Well, you can try, but you're going to fail.
Very thematic. Anyway, let's move on. Thanks very much, Pawel. Right, I'm going to go next. So, I heard on another podcast that somebody had been playing a game which sounded kind of up my street. They weren't. I mean, I think they were trying to make it sound better than it was. So I was a bit wary about getting it, but I thought, you know what, it does sound like my kind of thing. So I picked up Outward on the PS4. Now, Outwards it's a kind of strange sort of mashup, I suppose. There's it's a medieval sort of fantasy survival exploration RPG. And Dave, I think you might be interested in it. Did you say that you'd looked into this before?
I can't remember. There are so many.
Well, it's kind of weird because
survival
came out
RPGs.
Yeah, there are. It only came out last month, which is strange because if you play this game, it very much looks like a game that could have come out on the PS2. It looks that way, and it kind of plays that way as well. It's kind of strange, but it also has some sort of Dark Souls-ish combat style stuff going on in it, and also it has a Kenshi-esque thing about it as well. And you did play Kenshi and told us a fantastic story.
Yeah.
But I would say it's probably not quite as harsh and grindy as Kenshi is. But if you think about if somebody tried to make a sort of Dark Souls game and mixed it with Kenshi and threw in loads of survival things, you're pretty much there with this game. So it has all the sort of survival-y tropes. It has all that sort of hunger and thirst and cold and stuff like that. And the game's it's kind of punishing. I mean, I'll get to it later about what kind of happens when you die, but it's very easy to die in this game. It's just quite easy to get into a fight with people. They slash you with their sword, and you're suddenly bleeding to death. It's that kind of game.
Yeah.
And the game starts, and let me just get this straight from the start. The story is nonsense. There is, Pawel, you would hate this. It's just not well written or anything like that. I mean, you start off with you're on a ship sort of thing, or you're wrecked. Actually, you're on a shipwreck. Basically, you wash up on the shore, and the only person that's around is some guy who I think might be your cousin or something like that, and pretty much everybody else is dead. And you can kind of wander about in the starting area, but you speak to this guy, and he basically tells you, "Oh, you can use the sleeping bag there if you want to get some rest." And I was like, "Nah, I want to go and explore." So I went off and explored for a bit, and I was just kind of well, what am I doing? I'm just kind of wandering about, and there were some animals, and I found a machete. I found some stuff lying about actually, and I killed a couple of animals, got their leather, all those survival-y things. And then I went back to the guy, and he was just like, "You could use the sleeping bag if you want to get some sleep." And I was just like, "All right, fuck it then, I'll use the sleeping bag." And then of course using the sleeping bag then just advances the story. So there was clearly more stuff that I could have found if I just kept wandering about, and I didn't. And the game doesn't tell you that it's going to advance the story by doing that. So I was a bit annoyed. But I stuck with it. And you ended up in a town, and you wake up and you're in your bed because you've been I think the idea is that during the shipwreck you've been hurt so badly that, you just go to sleep and then you wake up in your bed because some people have come and rescued you. But that's not what happened in my story, obviously. I just wandered about for a while. And you wake up and you go outside and there's a bunch of like guards and townsfolk and all that standing outside baying for your blood because apparently you have a blood price to pay because your family has been disgraced way back in the past and you have to pay the town so much money every month. And because you've been gone for 4 months on the shipwreck, you now owe them a fortune.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so like the game basically tells you at that point, you've got to get 150 silver together in the next 4 days. And I was just like, okay, right. But like, this game does not hold your hand or anything. It's just like, you go and speak to some people and there is like the head of the town or her daughter or something that you talk to and she's just like, oh yeah, you should just go out and like get some money. I'm sure you'll do it. It'll be fine. So I wandered out into the world after sort of equipping myself badly because you have very little stuff other than your house, which does have some things in it which you can take with you, like some rations and things like that. I went off out into the world and ran into a couple of bandits who killed me.
Yep.
Obviously.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I woke up in their lair.
Oh.
And then I was like, okay, so I ran outside the little prison thing they'd put me in because you could just open the door for some reason.
That
ran outside.
Very inefficient killing.
Yeah, it is. Ran outside, got into a fight with the bandits in this massive lair that they've got, woke up again inside their prison, ran back outside again, repeat that. Eventually I managed to get myself out of their prison, but I'd lost all the stuff that I had with me because I had no idea where it was. I did find out later on, after being killed by these bandits again later on, that actually your stuff gets put in a chest and you can just go and grab it. So, yep. That was my experience. I spent so much time just getting killed over and over again by various things. By the time I managed to crawl back to the town, the guards wouldn't let me in my house anymore. It now belongs to the town. So all the stuff that I'd put in the box inside my house, can't get to it anymore. That's it. It's gone. I was just like, this fucking game. But I stuck with it. Where, went back out. I mean, people in the town give you quests and things like that. Go and find a mushroom shield. Okay. Go and do this, go and do that. So I ran out, got killed again by some random things, woke up in a hyena's lair. My stuff was just lying next to me. Just grabbed it, ran back out. Died again. Woke up next to something that looked like a mechanical alien who then spoke to me and gave me a backpack, which was nice. And he was just like, yeah, you guys hate us, but I'm going to let you go. And I've woken up in his cave like 2 or 3 times now. He's quite nice. He seems like a pretty nice guy. But the thing about this game...
There's definitely a cave sort of theme going through. Oh
yeah, there's definitely... There's caves, and there's bandit lairs, and that kind of thing, and there's a world map thing that you can wander about on, but everything just, wants to wreck you. But the thing about this game is it just does not let you die. You just keep waking up in various places and then go, well, for fuck's sake, where am I? And just you've got such a small backpack at the start of the game that you're trying to scrape money together, and when you die, when your bandits knock you out and stuff and drag you back to their camp, they take all your money off you. So
that's what bandits do.
Yeah, the game's unforgiving. It's just I'll keep going from having 0 silver to 25 silver, maybe 30 silver, killed by bandits, back to 0. It's just it's just one of these games. And yet there is something about it that keeps making me want to go back and play it some more. I'm just I feel like I need to get good, if you see what I mean. Because there's more to the game than that. There are skills, and some of them are really expensive, but the guy on the gate of the town will teach you some weapon skills and stuff, and this is where it gets sort of this sort of PS2, PS3 style controls, where you're just there's just buttons that you press. You hold down R2 and press square to do this special attack, and it's got a cooldown timer and all that sort of stuff. But the attacks are specific to different types of weapons, and you have to learn them all separately. So you'd really want to just pick a weapon and stick to it and learn those skills. But there are other passive skills that some guys in the town will teach you, but they're very expensive. There's magic in it. Now, the magic was quite interesting because there is a tutorial, and it's one of these weird tutorials where they're basically making you run through a gauntlet sort of style thing where there's various rooms that you can learn things. It's actually worth doing because it does teach you a wee bit about how the game plays. But the magic's quite interesting because you can learn these little spell things, and they're just like skills that you can put on your quick bar thing, whatever you want to call it. But there are other things you can do with it. So like you can cast like a magic circle that'll boost certain spells and things like that. So there's almost like a little ritual to the spell casting. And
okay, that sounds pretty cool.
yeah, see, I quite like that idea. Now the thing is, in the main game, I have been told by one of the townsfolk where I can go to learn some magic, but I haven't got there yet, and I'm just too scared to actually try and go to one of these places because everything's trying to murder me. You know, it's like, you know that reluctance you get when you play some games to go too far away from the hub area? It's just
Dark
that.
Souls. Dark Souls.
It's just that. I mean, this is what I mean. It has that Dark Souls feel to it.
But instead of your bonfires, you have caves and lairs.
Yeah. But there's like, I mean, the weather's trying to kill you in this game as well. You get cold. You get a cold. You get a cold in this game. Like, and it just like fucks with your stamina and stuff. I mean, you can get too hot. There's different clothing types that will cool you down or heat you up and all that sort of stuff. What else? Oh yeah, this game can be played multiplayer, so you can play it online, but they do have a split-screen co-op option, and I'm not sure how that would work with this game. But the guy that was talking about it on this other podcast, he'd been playing it with his wife, and he said that they were enjoying it, like doing it that way. So obviously it works in some fashion. I just can't actually figure out in my head how it works, because the game kind of like, you can't really pause it or anything like that. Like there's no, well, there is a pause option in the menu, and I don't know how that would work when you're playing with other people. It's maybe disabled. But like, what happens when you get too far away? What happens when one of you dies? Like, I don't really understand like how it can work with split screen. But clearly they've made it work, so I'd be interested to give it a go. Oh, the other one cool thing I remember about this game, right, is that when you're wearing your backpack, you've also got quite a lot of stuff in it. And the more stuff that's in it, when you try and dodge, the slower you are. But you can just press up on the D-pad and you drop your backpack on the floor. And then you can like roll about as fast as you like, and you can fight people. And you know, it's a game where you've got stamina and stuff like that. So you know, you can roll about quicker. Idea. Yeah, it's actually, I really liked that. That was just a really sort of themey thing that I really enjoyed about it. And then you can just go and pick your backpack up again later. Once you're either like dead and dragged off to a bandit camp, you can go back and find it. Or you survive the fight magically, and you can just put your backpack on. I did kill a whole load of troglodytes in a cave, though. I did quite enjoy doing that. I basically massacred them, but you know, they did knock me out a few times, but they're idiots. They just kept letting me go. I'd just go back in and just be like, die! The other thing about this game is that the more you do stuff like with your stamina, like your maximum stamina drops. It's to say with like, if the more you get hit, your maximum health drops, and you have to sleep in order to get rid of that. So sleeping in this game is very important. It's not just a thing for passing time or anything. It's actually something you're going to have to do quite a lot, and you're going to have to keep eating food and drinking water. You have to do the whole boiling water. There's crafting involved in it. You can buy crafting recipes, or you can just like play around with it and see if you can make certain things out of certain stuff. Quite interesting that way.
Dave likes crafting. I'm sure he'd enjoy that.
Everybody likes crafting, Pawel.
Ah, right.
Crafting's a thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, this actually sounds like an enjoyable, weird but enjoyable game. It's just, and I've just noticed I actually have it on my wish list on Steam, but it's bloody 35 quid, so I'm gonna wait.
I think it was cheaper on PlayStation, but I can't remember.
Right.
I don't remember paying 35 quid for it, but I might be wrong. It was maybe on sale or something. I can't remember. But yeah, Outward. Weird. Weird and yet extremely addictive. It's just a game where you die over and over, but you don't really die. I just can't stop it. I just can't stop playing it. It's just weird as hell.
Is it like the antithesis of roguelikes?
I mean, they're very different things. Very different things. Roguelikes have the same sort of feeling as well, because you die and you start again, and that's kind of what it feels like, a wee bit like in Outward sometimes. You die and then you're like, what's going on? Where's my stuff? Where am I?
It's just all your enemies are very accommodating.
Yeah, they are. Most of them, anyway. It's the bandits that are the worst. They are the worst because they just strip you naked and then you have to go and actually get your stuff back from them.
Oh, so troglodytes don't strip you?
Nah, they're idiots. And they're all dead now anyway, so it's fine.
Sweet.
So yes, Outward, that is by a company called 9 Dots, who are Canadian, I believe, and it came out on the 26th of March. So yes, check that out. Dave, how are you feeling about that?
It does sound amazing.
I thought you might like it.
Are you playing it on PlayStation?
Yeah, I'm playing it on PlayStation. You should pick it up and we should play.
I'll need to see if I can find it. Although I like the idea of the split screen co-op, which sounds like it might be more entertaining than...
What, just sitting on the couch swearing at each other?
It does sound like the sort of game that would be a lot of fun in split screen co-op.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's Outward, so let's move on. Dave, you've been having a mashup.
A mashup? Yeah, I've been playing a few bits and pieces since we last recorded. Not a huge amount of stuff. I have been playing The Return of the Obra Dinn, but I'm going to talk about that in a future podcast, I think, because I want to spend a bit more time on that one, I think, as it deserves it. But what else did I play? I haven't spent a huge amount of time playing it, but the game The Witness came up on PlayStation Plus. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The free game collection thing. So this is actually a game that came out in January 2016, and it was designed by a person called Jonathan Blow, who is most well known for the game Braid, I would say, although he's been involved in a lot of other things as well. But that was the thing that brought him to global prominence, because Braid was a sort of weird platform puzzler with time-based puzzles, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
only played a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think, yes, because it seemed quite rudimentary when you first played it. But then it had all this other sort of kind of like philosophical stuff tacked on top of it. And the puzzles were difficult. Like, they started out pretty straightforward, but they got pretty hard pretty quick. And I think that was a lot of the appeal for it, of that game as well, was people spending a lot of time just pondering these puzzles, and then finally it clicked how you would do a particular one, and that's quite rewarding. And The Witness, it's a very different game, but it does have that similarity in that it's a puzzle game. But this one takes place in the 3D world. You can walk about in the first-person perspective, and when you start, you're just in a darkened room, and you can see a glowing panel, kind of yellowy colour, and you go over to it and activate it. There's really no prompts or anything to guide you in this, and you just have to figure out. It's the simplest. It's hard to describe. It's like the game is about solving maze puzzles, but the first you don't know that initially. And this first panel is basically a right angle line, and you have to figure out that you start at where the circular blob is and move to where the exit symbol type thing is. And this is how, so eventually you suss that out and it opens a door, and then you can go outside and you emerge into this amazing world that's extremely colourful and bright. It's all very vivid. It's kind of, you're on an island and it's covered in trees of all different hues and buildings, architecture, because that's a big part of this game, is this kind of architecture that's spread across the island, and they've spent a huge amount of time developing this environment. And initially you're in a kind of small ruined it's not really a castle because it's so small, but a little ruin building, and there's more of these panels that you find, and basically you find out that the game is about solving these maze puzzles, but again, it doesn't tell you how to do them. You have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And there's other there's other aspects. Again, like the first panel outside that you solve, it has like a cable connected to it, and when you solve the maze, it's a very simple maze, and you just solve it. The cable kind of lights up, so you follow that, and you see, oh, it's connected to another panel, and it's activated the puzzle on this panel. So that the game is introduced in a non-verbal way to you, a sort of concept, if you see what I mean.
Right, yeah.
And that's one of the key things about this game, is that it never prompts you. There's nothing ever appears on the screen saying press A to do this, or
That's pretty cool.
that sort of thing. They're trying to avoid that altogether and give you entirely non-verbal or non-written clues. So there's all sorts of things, like eventually you get out of this little castle by doing all the little simple mazes that are in there, and it lets you open the door, and you can go outside, and then you're basically on the island, and you can go wherever you want. And there's lots of different areas on the island that have their own theme in terms of the trees and the sort of flora and the architecture as well, and it's full of these puzzles. And there's just interesting things, like you can go anywhere, but there's like a little footpath. So maybe you can go anywhere you want, and there's no problem with doing that. Maybe you want to follow the footpath to begin with, because maybe that will take you to the puzzles that are easier to do initially, if you see what I mean, rather than just wandering off and ending up somewhere where it might be a bit more challenging. It's that kind of thing, and boy, is it challenging. These are not easy. Like, the ones at the beginning are very simple, but very quickly it ramps up. You'll come to like a panel, and you look at it, and it's a kind of maze, but it's got all these other symbols on it, and you're like, I do not know what any of these symbols mean. And you have to like figure out what you're going to do with that. You can try and solve it, and you'll probably fail, and then maybe you'll find out there's some other easier versions of this that allow you, like somewhere else, that allow you to figure out what the symbols are, and then you can go back to the really complex one, and you're like, okay, now I know what all these symbols are, and maybe it's combinations of two different symbols that you found in other places, and then you can solve the puzzle, and it'll open whatever it unlocks, and you can proceed from there. It's not just about symbols that are on the puzzles, though. There's other things going on. It's difficult to talk about it without being like, well, first of all, it's super visual, so it's just difficult to talk about, but it's also difficult to talk about without spoiling like solutions to puzzles. But it's such a strange game, because it's these two things of like puzzle solving and the environment, and they are linked together. But yeah, it's very unusual, and I haven't got very far with it, because I've gone to some areas and I've looked at the little panel, and I'm just like, I have no idea how to do this, and I try a few things, I'm not getting anywhere, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just kind of stuck. So, you can just wander off somewhere else, but it can be for me it was a little bit frustrating, because I went to like one area I did, and I basically cleared all of it, and then the next area I went to, I couldn't find like a single one that I could do. I couldn't get anywhere with it, basically. Like, and because of the way, like, it might be that I've just not found. It could be that I've just not found like the one that I need to find, or the thing I need to find, because there's so much stuff. There's so many buildings and nooks and crannies. It can be a little tricky sometimes. You have to look around you, look about you, if you like. Sometimes to see all of this stuff, and like look for cables connecting things together, and it's definitely, it can be a bit of work. It's like
this sounds this sounds really similar. What was it called? The Talus Principle.
Oh well, I haven't played that, but perhaps yes, because
that was a game that I played on Steam a few years ago. I can't remember if I talked about it in the podcast. Actually, it may have been very early in the podcasting library. it could be in a very early episode, but definitely that sounds a lot like the Talos Principle, what you're describing to me.
Except, presumably in the Talos Principle, the puzzles were more varied, perhaps? I don't know, because you're always, ultimately what you're doing in The Witness is solving a maze puzzle. Like, right. Always.
Yeah, no, no, the Talos Principle was very much like maze puzzles, but if I'm remembering the same game, if I'm thinking about the right game, I think it involved a lot of like shooting lasers into mirrors and things, but you had to like move the mirrors around and angle them through certain windows, but it was all very mazy. If that's the game I'm thinking of.
I suppose
that's the one, Chris, yes.
Yeah.
Now that you play that,
I have it.
Another one of Pavel's games that he has.
I mean, I suppose there are plenty of other games where there is basically one type of puzzle and that's all you do for the whole game. I guess it's not that unique. Like Catherine, for example, on the PlayStation 3, another very strange hybrid game of like puzzle solving and dating simulator.
Catherine was puzzles and sort of dexterity and speed. It wasn't an easy game.
Yeah, but the puzzles were always, they got more complex as it went on, but it was always the same kind of puzzle. So yeah, I guess it's not as unique as I perhaps thought. But just the fact that you've got this whole island, and just the island itself, and wandering about the island and looking at things is quite pleasurable in itself. And the budget for this game was ridiculous. I can't remember what it is, but the amount of time they spent on it in terms of years of development, and the development budget was like bonkers. But that is the reason the island is so wonderful is because of all this money and time. Like, I remember I read that they consulted with a number of architects in order to help them like develop the structures, the built environment, as they would call it, on the island, so that it was believable and just so it looked good. Like, there's just lots of really cool looking structures in it, and
that's impressive.
The sort of thing.
Impressive.
Well, the sort of things like I was looking at them and I was going, oh, this is the sort of stuff that I kind of wished I could build in Minecraft.
Right.
You see what I mean? Like, they're just buildings, but they look really cool. They're not just boxes like everyone else builds.
That's what we all revert to in Minecraft. It's like, I'm going to build the best house. It's a box.
Yeah.
So, but what you're saying is that even though architects were involved, the buildings themselves are not traditional in a way, as in a bit otherworldly, yes?
Oh, well, some of them are, but some of them are very traditional. Some of them are older looking, and there's kind of a story to this island. But from what I know about the game, it's not a story that is ever fully told. It's something that you just kind of have to infer by playing through. But you will discover stuff as you wander around, and you'll be like, oh, well, this is quite interesting. I wonder what happened here. I wonder what this meant. There's a kind of history to it that you can see, because there's buildings that are clearly old buildings. Some of them are ruined, but there's also old buildings that are old and then are kind of being like rebuilt. There's like scaffolding on them, things like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think this comes from this sort of consultation with sort of design professionals, basically from outside the traditional sort of gaming world, perhaps. But yeah, it's a unusual game, and definitely not for everyone, because it does get pretty hard pretty quick. But I guess it's the sort of thing where if you're happy to sort of just spend time thinking about it, pondering, playing around, you're like, maybe I need to think about this a bit differently, and then it clicks, and then you're like, that's very rewarding. Like, I remember playing Fez, which is another puzzle game, and that can be very difficult, but I did persist with that, and there were some of the puzzles that I remember solving eventually. It took me hours and hours and hours of like thinking and coming back to them, going away, coming back. And I remember one of them I solved, which was a sort of code type puzzle, but when I did it, it was like, this is never going to work. This can't possibly be the answer. It's way too, like, what I'd come up with was so obscure this sort of hypothesis I'd created based on just vague stuff that I'd seen in the environment, because it's all about looking at the environment for clues. And I was like, it was a kind of code, this one, and so I was like, maybe is this it really? And I put in the code and it worked, and I was just like, oh my god, I cannot believe that is the solution to that puzzle. It's so ridiculous. So there's definitely a little bit of that about it, but yeah, unfortunately, it's not. It's I'm talking about it so late that it's no longer free on the PlayStation Plus. I know, it's a shame.
I'm sure that everybody like us just obsessively downloads these games anyway whenever they come up.
Well, this is it.
And then
it
deletes them just so they're
exactly,
in the library.
Yeah. Maybe if you did add it to your library but haven't looked at it, and if it's because I had no idea when I added that to my library, I had no idea what it was, and I actually thought it was a Minecraft type game because I just looked at the sort of screenshots from a distance, and I sort of saw trees and walls, and I was like, oh, it's a sort of block type game. I'll not really bother looking. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm necessarily going to go back to it, but maybe I will. I don't know. It's kind of tempting.
650 puzzles, it says here.
650?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've not got time for that.
The player is not required to solve them all.
This is true.
The player is not required to play the game.
You could just wander about. You could just solve the first dozen and then just kind of wander around and look at the island and listen to the ocean and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out if you've got it. And I noticed that it is now available on mobile platforms, which I didn't know.
Yes, I'm just looking at that now. It is on iOS.
Yeah. Not Android, just iOS. Which, yeah, I think you'll need a pretty good phone to play it. It's a pretty hefty engine.
It's possibly not for mobile phones though. It's probably an iPad game,
possibly. But yeah, so maybe I can't remember what the price is because I did not pay for it. But I think one of the complaints people had with it is that it is priced quite high.
Right.
I think. So yeah.
Okay, well,
when it's on sale. Anyway, yeah. Do you want me to mention the other thing I've been playing?
Well, we are running out of time, but I've got one other thing to squeeze in on top of that. So if you can be quick, then I go for it.
Yeah, the other game, very quickly, that I have been playing is a game called Tick Tock. A Tale for Two. I need to get that correct. Which is one of these two-player puzzle games that is very similar to a game that Chris and I have talked about on the podcast before, which was called We Were Here.
Yes.
And we talked about that in episode 95. And it's a two-player puzzler where each player sees different things, and you have to talk to each other and explain, this is what I can see, and the other player says, oh, okay, that kind of matches up what I can see. Maybe I can see a bunch of levers with different symbols on them, and then the other player will be like, oh, I have a book with a bunch of the symbols that sound a lot like the symbols you're talking about. And this interaction between the two of you allows you to solve the puzzles between you, yeah? And Tick Tock: A Tale for Two is a very similar kind of game. It's available on Steam, but it's also available on iOS, and it's cheaper on iOS, so you should probably buy it there. I don't know why it's a $5 on Steam, which seems a bit crazy. But yeah, either of those is fine. And unlike We Were Here, where we had to have we had to connect together on a sort of server browser thing, didn't we? Because you could sometimes see the other player in your game, but that's not actually really necessary for this style of game. So for a TikTok, you don't need to connect together. All you need to do is be able to talk to each other, and one of you chooses player one, the other one chooses player two. So in a sense, it's kind of like cross-platform in a way. It doesn't matter whether you're on Steam or iOS or whatever, as long as you can talk to each other and describe what you can see, then you can play the game together. That totally confused me. I've been playing with my girlfriend, and I was going, oh, maybe it works on Bluetooth. Because we were starting it and there was no server browser. I was like, oh, maybe it works like this. And then eventually I was like, oh yeah, you don't need to be connected together at all. What am I thinking of? It's like there's no requirement.
We trust you to get obsessed with that.
I know. And then I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. It's like, because I was like, maybe we played it. We were sort of in a cafe, so facing each other, because you're not allowed to look at the other person's screen. But yeah, it's very similar. I would say this one is a little. It's not too challenging. We've not finished it yet, and it is getting more difficult as it goes along, but it's a bit more straightforward, more suitable for people who are not like playing loads and loads of puzzle games, and or who are maybe not like big gamers and stuff, you could almost say. And the other thing I like about it is that we were here, it was slightly strange in that one person was kind of like the librarian, and the other person solved the puzzles, or did the actual actions, which was fine. But in this one, in Tick Tock, it's more back and forth. So in one puzzle, one person might have the kind of the clues, or some more of the clues, and the other person might be manipulating the device. It's all in this one. It's all about like watches and clocks, and there's a story going on, which I won't really go into because it's not super important to talking about the game. And yeah, it's good. We're having a lot of fun with it because it's because it's not too difficult, I would say. Like, we were here, Chris and I played it. I could not have played that with my girlfriend. We wouldn't have finished it because some of those puzzles, particularly the very last one, were we're not trying to say they're like really. It's not like The Witness, but it took us a while, didn't it?
It did.
The one with the.
It was extremely frustrating, actually. But...
Yes, yeah, and that took us a lot of work of going through until we could finally figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah,
there was a lot to describe. So this one is a bit more straightforward. You're like, here's what I can see, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. So yeah, it's cool. I think this is I like this kind of game, and this one is a nice kind of chilled out version of it. So I would definitely recommend it. It is a wee bit. I would say it's probably a bit expensive for what it is. Even on iOS, it's $2.99. You have to have 2 copies, so that's £6. It's quite short. We're not finished it, but I think we're about halfway through, and we've only played it for like an hour or something. But yeah, I would sort of have tentatively, apart from if you've got loads of money, I would recommend it.
Fair enough.
That's not, you know what I mean, if that's not a concern. It's by Other Tales Interactive.
Yeah, I did really enjoy that. We Were Here. We still have to play We Were Here too, Dave.
I know.
We will. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is like a genre that really picks up, because I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do with this concept.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of felt the same with, and I wouldn't. Well, I haven't finished Tick Tock, so I can't say what it does and doesn't do. But I wouldn't say it particularly pushes the envelope, if you like. In terms of doing like really crazy things where you're like, oh wow, again, like what I'm talking about, where you're kind of like, could it maybe be this? And then but yeah, they should definitely make more of these. They're a lot of fun.
I agree.
The downside is not much replay value as well, obviously, but it's kind of worth it. So yeah.
Well, that was Dave's mashup. Thanks very much.
Yep.
And we should say The Witness, that's Thekla Inc. developed and published that. It came out in 2016, actually very early, January. So that's more than 3 years old now, The Witness. Yeah.
Tick Tock: A Tale for Two is a bit more, well, it is more recent, 7th of March 2019.
Yeah.
By Other Tales Interactive, who are from Denmark.
Cool. Right, well, we are fast running out of time. I am going to mention this because I don't really have too much to say. I had some time off last week, and it was my birthday, as we mentioned at the start of the episode, and I was given Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which is a game that Pawel gushed about.
It's a fantastic gift. Well done.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's something I'm going to say, and you're not going to hear me say this often, but Pawel, you're absolutely right.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to trigger me and stuff.
Oh, no, not at all. This game was excellent. I enjoyed every second of it.
Wow.
Now, it is a game about a lady from, I mean, she is from, like, Orkney or something like that, isn't she? Like,
Yep.
She is meant to be sort of one of these sort of Scottish Celtic tribes people.
Pretty much,
who suffers from psychosis. Now, psychosis is something that I know about because I have a very close relation, I'm sure you guys know, who suffers from this, struggles with it. And I can tell you that some of the stuff that was in this game was very representative of what I have witnessed, put it that way, from someone who... Sorry?
I've watched a lot of I've watched a lot of development material about obviously getting advice and double checking their decisions with actual therapists and actual patients.
Experts basically. And patients as well. I mean, I found that interesting because I was reading up about the game, and the fact that they actually spoke to patients as well is fantastic. It's a great idea if they really want to represent what it's like to have psychosis, and those are the people to speak to. So, I mean, like I say, I'm not going to say too much about it because Pawel did talk about it quite a lot in episode 71.
Loved it.
One of the things, the visuals in it, amazing. The sounds in it, incredible. All of that. The story is immense. I will say that obviously because this is somebody with psychosis, you are left with a lot of questions about the story, about how much of it is actually real. But one thing I will say is the combat I found to be amazing. I really enjoyed the combat in that game. Like, it was so good. Like, it was so smooth. It was so responsive. All the animations were brilliant. Like, everything just felt like it was, like I say, just so smooth and just, like, realistic.
Absolutely.
The blocking and all that stuff that you can do in it was incredible.
The thing is, in games like this, sometimes the timed block is part of the gameplay, but quite often either frustrating or not well done thing. Whereas in Senua, somehow they found the right way to do timed blocking, and it just works wonders.
It works so well because it all just ties in with the animation and everything as well. So it all just, like, it doesn't feel clunky or sort of like out of place or anything like that. It's just everything just happens so smoothly.
And when you add the active soundtrack to it with your voices called Furies actually whispering to you if an enemy has suddenly appeared just behind you and is about to attack you, that is brilliant.
That is amazing. All that stuff that's happening. The voices that you can hear. I mean, they do recommend that you play this game with headphones.
Oh yeah.
I didn't, unfortunately, but I did get the impression that if you did, it would be amazing. It would be incredible. It would just improve it so much.
Well, the voice talents recording your inner voices were essentially moving around the studio, around a master mic. So this is all very reliant on direction.
I could kind of pick that up from the audio coming out my TV. I could pick up that's what they were doing with it, and I was sitting there thinking, I really wish I could play it as a headphone. So my girlfriend was watching me play it, and she enjoyed it. She just loved watching me play it as well.
It's one of those games that you can just watch,
definitely. It's not a long game. It was maybe about, 10 hours or something?
I think this was one of the other reasons why this game was such a success, because in the world of either AAAs or indies, Senua is sort of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think so.
Both lengthwise and price-wise, yeah.
I think it was the right length. I think it was for the story and everything like that. I mean, there's a lot of puzzles and stuff in this game as well. And some of those are really interesting. They were really well designed. But I think the game is the right length. It didn't overstay its welcome or anything like that. I mean, I could have kept playing the game, and that's what you want. That's what you want from a game, I suppose. You want to actually be like, well, I wish I could keep playing for another few hours, but that's it. The game's ended now. I did platinum the thing. I did get all the story stone things, Pawel. I suppose you're glad to hear that I listened to all the lore.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks very much.
Proud of you.
Right, I'm not going to say anything more than that. Like I say, you can go and listen to Pawel talking about it in episode 71. But I do have one question for you, Pawel.
Oh, okay.
See, at the very end of the game, without giving too much away here, how long did you go on for before you realised what you actually were supposed to be doing?
Oh my god! Because I've enjoyed the fighting mechanics so much. I just kept going.
Yeah,
like,
me too, man. I mean,
there
the
was
game's
no
giving you massive
me.
hints, but like at the same time here, I'm just like, no, keep fighting.
Me too. Oh man, I was in tears. I wasn't stopping. No, there was no stopping.
Yeah, fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic. Really glad that I spent a good chunk of time playing that because it was absolutely brilliant. I would totally recommend it.
I fully approve of this review.
Yeah, it's sort of a rare occurrence that you and I agree so much on something.
True. That is true.
It was one of the games that I wanted to play when I bought the PlayStation 4 for. That was definitely on the list of must-play games.
And you didn't get around to it?
No, I'm still getting around to it. I still haven't played Last Guardian either, but I'm working my way through it slowly. The list.
Okay, well, that is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. That is by Ninja Theory. It came out on PlayStation 4 in August 2017, so it's nearly a couple of years old now, year and a half. But it's also on Xbox One, and it just came out on the Nintendo Switch like a couple of weeks ago. So
we probably don't mention it often, but this game is actually had I don't know how many awards, including BAFTAs and the like. So yeah,
and it well deserves them. It's a fantastic bit of game there. Okay, right. Well, that's going to have to wrap up the episode. We have gone on a wee bit longer than we should have, but we do have one more announcement to make. The website's live!
Hey!
Yeah! Which means I can stop going through all the internet stuff now because I'm just going to redirect everybody to the website from now on.
Oh my God, that's radical.
I'm very, very sorry, but I will continue with the tradition, though. So I will say that you can email us if you have any questions you want to ask us or anything, and questions we can answer on the show, anything like that, at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST player token. If you want to find out any of our social media stuff, just go to our website. It's firstplayertoken.com. FIRSTplayertoken.com. But if you really want to keep up with what we're doing, all our updates, you can check out our Twitter, which is at 1STPlayerToken.
That's once player token.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't deny you guys saying once player token. You know, I have to keep going with that.
Always a pleasure.
Maybe we should get Pawel to say it one week. I think we've suggested this before, haven't we?
I think me and Pawel did an episode alone and he had to do it.
Oh.
He wasn't happy about it, from what I remember. Yeah, I think he messed it up.
Really?
I've stumbled on it. Yes.
I thought you would have just asked him to do it, and he would have been like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." So I know what happened.
Because that's what Pawel's like, isn't it? Also, we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Thank you very much, Dave. You can go to podnose.com and check out the network of podcasts that we are a part of. They are on a variety of topics, so go and have a look. So, hopefully, we will be back next week with lots of lovely board games to talk about, including Untold Legends. Or Legends on... Which one is it, Dave?
Oh,
it's Legends Untold.
I've already had this discussion earlier this morning with McCreary.
We kept messing it up. It's Legends Untold. And some surprises, I think. I've got a couple of things coming. I'm sure Pawel will have some role-playing games to talk about that we won't let him talk about, so that'll be good.
Lovely. Looking forward to that.
But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.